Marcus Ellery had attended enough estate auctions to know that the best treasures rarely announced themselves. They sat in corners, misunderstood and undervalued, waiting for the one person perceptive enough to see past their surface. That philosophy had guided him through 14 years of estate sales and property liquidations across the American Southeast. And on a warm Tuesday morning in Savannah, Georgia, it was about to reward him in a way he had never imagined. The Whitmore Hotel had stood for 91 years before a kitchen fire forced its closure. The blaze caused enough structural damage to make renovation impractical, and the family that owned the property made the difficult decision to liquidate everything before selling the land. Every piece of furniture, every chandelier, every brass fixture, all of it was being sold at a public auction held right there in the grand lobby, whose marble floors still gleamed despite the smoke damage above. Marcus arrived early, walking the rows of tagged items before bidding began. He noted Victorian reading chairs, a mahogany reception desk, 2 gilded mirrors. But the item in the far corner of the basement stopped him completely. It was a safe. A standing floor safe, roughly 4 feet tall, manufactured around the 1940s. The heat had warped its outer casing on one side, bubbling the original green paint and leaving a rippled texture across the left panel. The dial was intact but clouded. A handwritten note was taped to it. Contents unknown. Sold as is. No combination available. Most bidders walked right past it. Marcus stood there for 4 full minutes. What drew him was the brass manufacturer's plate on the lower front, still legible despite everything. Halverson and Reed, Cincinnati, 1947. He knew that name. Halverson and Reed had been one of the most respected safe manufacturers of the mid-20th century, producing units for hotels, banks, and private estates nationwide. Their safes were built to last generations, and their internal compartments were often divided, a main chamber and a secondary section many owners never discovered. When bidding opened on the safe, the auctioneer introduced it with a good-natured chuckle that rippled through the crowd. Someone behind Marcus muttered that it was only good for scrap metal. The opening bid was set at $50. Marcus raised his paddle at 60, a brief counter at 75. Marcus said 90, and the room went quiet, then moved on. The auctioneer called it sold, with a small smile, as if performing a kindness. Marcus paid, arranged transport, and had the safe delivered to his workshop by 4 that afternoon. He had learned to open vintage safes through a genuine study of mechanical engineering and mid-century locking systems. He owned reference books on Halverson and Reed models and had successfully opened 6 of them for estate clients whose families had lost the combinations. It was methodical, patient work that required silence and focus. He began at 7 in the evening. By 9:15, the dial yielded its sequence. The main chamber opened with a low, pressurized sigh, as though the safe itself had been holding its breath. Inside, Marcus found a leather document folio, slightly aged but intact. Beneath it, a small cedar box. And beneath that, wrapped in a hotel laundry bag, a bundle of papers. He set everything on his work table under good lighting, and began with the folio. It contained the original property deeds for the Whitmore Hotel, dating to its construction in 1933. Tucked behind them were correspondence letters between the original owner, George Alton Whitmore, and a prominent Savannah architect. The letters described in careful detail the vision for the hotel, the marble sourced from a Georgia quarry, the ironwork commissioned from a local smith, the grand staircase George had designed personally based on one he had seen in Florence. They were remarkable primary documents, the kind historical societies treasured. The cedar box held something entirely different. Inside, nested in aged velvet, were 7 silver serving pieces, small, exquisitely made, each engraved with the initials G.A.W. A folded note inside read simply, "For whoever finds these, they were my grandmother's. Please see that they find a good home." Marcus sat with that note for a long time. Then he unrolled the papers from the laundry bag. There were 41 of them. Pen and ink architectural drawings, original blueprints for the Whitmore Hotel, signed by the architect and dated 1932. Every room, every structural detail, the grand ballroom, A rooftop terrace that had been designed but never built. Page after page of someone's meticulous, beautiful vision. He was sitting with something irreplaceable. Marcus spent the following week doing what he always did when he discovered items of historical significance. He researched carefully before making any decisions. He located the Whitmore family through public records. The current representative was Patricia Whitmore Haynes, 73, living in Charleston, George Alton Whitmore's granddaughter. He called her on a Thursday morning and told her what he had found. There was a long silence, and then the sound of someone trying very hard to compose themselves. "The drawings," she said finally. "My grandfather spoke about those drawings his entire life. We assumed they were lost in a renovation decades ago. They met the following Saturday in Savannah. R22 en masse. Marcus brought everything, organized in archival sleeves. When Patricia opened the folio and saw her grandfather's correspondence, she pressed her hand flat against the page and closed her eyes. The Historical Society responded with enthusiasm. The architectural drawings were donated, credited to the Whitmore family, and scheduled for permanent display as part of a heritage exhibition. The personal letters were preserved and catalogued. The silver pieces were returned to Patricia, who said they would go to her daughter. As for Marcus, he was compensated fairly for his discovery and care, and the story spread quickly through the antique and estate community. Within 2 months, 3 historical preservation organizations had contacted him asking if he would consult on other estate liquidations involving possible historical artifacts. He said yes to all 3. The $90 safe sat in his workshop still, cleaned and displayed near the window. He had no plans to sell it. Some things deserved to stay exactly where they were. Quiet reminders that value rarely announces itself. That patience and knowledge together open what impatience never could. And that the items most people walk past laughing are sometimes the ones that end up mattering most. The auction had laughed at him, openly. Marcus had listened to something else entirely, and it had made all the difference.